Despite being made entirely out of reused assets and on a budget that must be 1/100th of the base game, Nightreign is a big deal. Following Shadow of the Erdtree, Nightreign's release represented a sort of Elden Ring Season 3, and was kind of a momentous occasion because it's the last piece of Elden Ring that we'll ever get to play. From an aesthetic standpoint, most of this game is cleverly recycled like so much cardboard. Why then did I spend that many hours in it? Why is it so special to me? Well, unlike the last 6 Souls games, Nightreign is the only one to actually throw the rule book all the way entirely out the window. Everything you thought you knew, forget about it. The sheer frantic chaos of trying to decipher Nightrein's rules was so engaging that I immediately forgot about the reused assets. In fact, they were the only thing that was familiar to me. These fields and cliffs are the same ones that already robbed you hundreds of hours in the base game, only sprinkled now with blue and purple hues under an ominous skybox. Shadowy figures cross the sky to an Erdtree drained of color. That's new. The Round Table Hold is lush and green. A space that used to exist completely apart from the laws of nature is now being reclaimed by it, yet still inexplicably floating in the middle of the ocean. I'd like to start by referencing this IGN interview with one of Nightrein's concept and environmental artists. She talks broadly about having to create something that first feels and looks familiar and gradually transforms into the unfamiliar and into the unknown. Working on a budget but still with a massive library of completed assets, this was a clever approach to take. Nightrein's 3-day descent from the familiar sanctuary of the base game into this dreamlike hellscape was evidently very calculated, and it paid off. These are some of the best skyboxes in memory, not that you really have a lot of time to look at them. Just like classic Souls, you will experience the juxtaposition of the beautiful, tranquil scenery and the frenetic, bloodthirsty combat that it leads you into. I've always been playing at least partially for the story and vibes, but what inevitably happens is the more monsters we slay, the more invested in the blood we become, and we start rushing past those beautiful, tranquil areas. Especially when you're on a timer. The Round Table Hold is the exception. Throughout the quest lines, you can savor the countless little interactions here. It can be strangely moving. So how much new lore is there? Well, I like that it's kind of separate to the original Elden Ring story. I like to imagine it's possibly taking place after the Age of Stars ending, or maybe way before the main game in a separate timeline of sorts. But we'll get into the lore later if you want. Eventually, you have to leave the hold, and the bloodthirst does take over. Once the expedition begins, there is no time for the story or lore, just carnage and chicanery. I'm not thinking at all about the narrative implications of the almost extinct bird people, or where this centaur came from. I'm thinking only of how I am going to kill it. How am I going to kill it? For years, people have been talking about how Dark Souls is so hard and it will like beat you into the ground, but it's never actually been true until now. Dark Souls had slow-moving boss fights that were easy to learn. After death, it only takes a few minutes to run back to the boss and try again. Elden Ring had much harder boss fights with complex movesets, but after dying we can still retry the fights almost instantly. so learning the movesets was a very achievable goal. Nightreign is different. Listen, if you die here, it's gonna take another 30 minutes before you can try again. That's only 2 attempts every hour or so. And unlike regular Dark Souls, everything is reset every run. It's now very likely you'll spend literal hours making 0 progress. How am I supposed to master the boss's moveset within any reasonable time frame? A failed run isn't a total loss. You'll always learn at least a few tricks. Just be ready to accept that if you're trying to complete this game, it won't happen fast. If you're playing single player and are trying to complete all quest lines, you will be in for a hard time. I did them all solo. Did them pretty hard too. I'm one of the cringe bastards who says with pride that they have completed every Souls game, and yes, I will use that cliche to give my next statement some credibility. I can say without hesitation that finishing Scholar's questline and getting him to defeat the Dreadlord solo is honestly harder than any previous boss in the series, purely because of that 30-minute boss run back. That hurt, almost lost my mind. So I only just got around to completing the DLC. It's pretty fresh in memory, so let me talk about it a bit. Undertaker is great, finished her questline easily. The 2 new bosses were fun too. I'd almost hit 100% completion, just had to run Scholar's questline. Old Snake here still has 1 more battle before he can wipe this meme from the face of the earth. Scholar is initially pretty dog shit. I found his skill to be genuinely useless at first. How the fuck was I going to solo the Dreadlord with this support character? I start experimenting. How am I going to dust this guy? What are Scholar's strengths? Give him the relic that grants runes upon scanning enemies, as well as the obtain more runes buff. Suddenly we're running with like 4 free levels. Grab the continuous damage on activation of art skill, and now our ult can clear entire camps and even fully restore our health from the Dreadlord's trash mobs. Fire pots. Fire pots will carry you up until the day 2 boss, I shit you not. Okay, that's a start, but we can't fire pot the Dreadlord. Our damage is still dog shit. Look at his stats. S in Arcane. Scholar will live and die by the bleed status effect. This thing will chunk Dancing Lion, and it will chunk Dreadlord. There is no way you will ever do enough damage to win without it. We're ready. In order to win, you need to A, get a purple arcane bleed weapon on day 2 from a formidable field boss, and B, not run into Artorias on day 2 because he'll kill you. It took me a few attempts. My last run, I somehow got a bonus Wending Grace from the Ancestral Beast and the bleed-inducing Raptor Claws from a Black Blade Kindred. I was relieved and terrified to see the Dancing Lion on day 2, who died like a... And when I got to Dreadlord with 3 Wending Graces, I was shaking and sweating cold sweat. You know I'm locked in when my only attack is conservatively throwing out the 2-handed jumping heavy after every combo. So many hours. Snake, put the gun down. Honorable mention goes to Recluse's questline, beating the knight aspect as her. You think you've got a good spell, but then it does like no damage. It just takes way too long to get to this point, man. Eventually you get the god tier run and he just falls onto his own sword. This damage was insane. I don't know what I did differently, but it worked. Also, during my winning attempt, I got my first and only drop of the Chord End, which has a 0.035% chance of dropping. That's 1 in 2,857 chance. I was able to access the secret room and grab the twigs just barely before the rain hit me, and this was on my winning attempt. Clear proof of God's existence. I am terrified. Anyway, these were some hard runs, but not everyone is going to put themselves through them. The runs I've mentioned are not favorable matchups and are not required to roll the credits. It's also not required to be done solo at all. Your playthrough of Nightreign might be one using a 3-person team of Raider, Guardian, and Wilder. You might get carried and finish the whole game in like 5 hours. It's your game to play as you please, though I recommend doing at least a little bit of every character's questline. They are the best part of the game. I love every single one of these crazy bastards. Even the relatively weak ones feel like a fun challenge to overcome, and the questlines are all jam-packed. Despite only having a handful of levels, the lore is distinct. My favorite character is Revenant, and I'll fucking tell you why. At this point, we know Elden Ring combat is all about getting close, landing charged heavies, and nailing that sweet, sweet poise break. That's the way to play, and we loved it. And most of the Nightfarers lean into that classic style of play. But in Elden Ring, there was also another way to play. The option was always there to cheese every encounter at range with spells and wacky bullshit, summons and filthy chicanery. And this chicanery is the only option with Revenant, and melee combat is the absolute last resort. Due to this, she presents a very unique challenge to overcome. And then you have characters like Raider. It's impossible to lose a match as Raider. With all this in mind, I put this question to the room. How hard is Nightreign supposed to be? How much of the difficulty is calculated and how much is random? The fact that the game has been patched so much since release always implies we're playing it by ear, so to speak. I know these games are always balance patched, that's expected, but here we actually needed to add an entire free revive for single player. Now, you can solo all the quest lines in the unpatched version of the game without the free revive, like you can run Dark Souls 3 with the torch only. Nightreign can provide some intense highs. But also the lowest lows of any Souls game, which overall does give this game the feeling of being a little less calculated and honestly just a bit random at times. Like Scholar missing out on a day 2 bleed weapon and then having to fight Artorias. You will not win, go home. I guess that's all part of the fun. It is a roguelike. Mastering it will take a very long time, and along the way, random chance will play a large part in a lot of your victories. The 30-minute boss runback is very brutal, but it's made to be played in small bursts. Just take care of yourself, okay? If you're getting grief, maybe change characters, call a friend, just have fun with it. Okay, so we're back in the round table hold. It was a journey, but we uncovered every journal fragment. They can be of few words, yet are given weight by the Herculean tasks required to uncover them. Not a single paragraph is wasted. Trapped in an endless loop, unable to wake up. Living was hard, but choosing death was unthinkable. The memories of your previous life will haunt you forever, yet are also the only reason you can continue fighting. Nightreign's lore could be the soul's manifesto. A Nightfarer's forays wither the soul and cloud recollection. 2 horses galloping across Windwale Knoll. In wafted the alluring savour of freshly baked bread. I believe you are familiar with the monster. He was raised by the Fellowship to be the centipedal scion he is. What? The garden is graced with beautiful flowers and the study filled with rare books, new and old. Baking the bread you requested is proving to be far more difficult than expected. I am certain you are aware of the destruction of the boarding house in the Duskin Valley. What the fuck is the Duskin Valley? The wandering warrior whose habit was to preserve scenes with brush and ink. The witch of the deep woods. Those who fare against the night find that even their most cherished memories eventually dissipate. The raider no longer hears the gentle murmur of the waves. For him, the sea churns no longer. These fingers have not the warmth nor the softness I expect. Thus did mine old companion speak to me in parting. The Erd Tree. I am an artist. Yeah, okay, guy. Living was hard, but choosing death was unthinkable. Allow me to conclude my findings, having now come to the end of this grand romance. What does any of this mean? It means we're all screwed, but we've got to do our best. Definitely fucked, though. Bring him home, buddy. Night's End. The Dawn. Throughout our journey, we are faced constantly with the question of how can you defeat the night? It is inevitable. Like Don Quixote fighting the windmill, we cannot win against the cosmological inevitability of the night. So long as we continue to rotate around the sun, night will come. Dawn only exists because night's coming. Nightreign gives us a few different endings. To varying degrees, they dance around the fact that night will return, despite our victory. The fire fades, though dancing embers in the darkness suggest a continuous cycle. All we have left is to cherish the good times, the camaraderie, the fading memories. It's kind of our only option. It's like the human condition or some shit. Why is this the underlying theme that runs through every Souls game? Weird choice for a series of action RPGs. It's a cheap trick, but it works and the games stick with us as something more. The more you think on it, the more you want to throw your PlayStation out the window. Run outside and touch grass. Live your life until you boot up the next game. That's part of the cycle too. If you haven't already chosen the next video you're going to watch, allow me to strongly recommend my last video on Wanted Dead, especially if that is a video game you've never heard of. Otherwise, if you've ever enjoyed chatting about Silent Hill 2, then you can watch my previous video on that game. I'll see you.